mindset hack. And this mindset hack actually has to do with compassion. And compassion, before I go into all of the benefits that compassion actually has, I want you to sort of like put a dilemma in front of you and see if you can guess. So there's three options. They did a scientific study, and in this study, they wanted to know if when do people donate the most. So let's imagine there is a girl from Africa, from a very poor country within the continent of Africa, malnutrition. Maybe you can imagine this little girl having COVID, or maybe parent who does, you know, and let's say that's the story, right? Would you donate more to that girl, knowing to look her in the eye and see her little face and hear her story? Would you donate more to that sooner to that girl, and what would the average person say about that? Or what if we gave you the African statistics? How many people are suffering on the whole continent, or in that whole country where that little girl is from, or all the little girls in her age group? The statistic, the number. Okay, so would you give more to that number, seeing how large the suffering is? Or the third group is you have a mix of the story of the little girl with the pictures and the videos of the little girl and the statistic as well. What would the average person sooner or more likely to be donating to? Well, I can give you the answer. They actually found out that just the story of the little girl compared to the statistic, people are twice more likely to give to the story of the little girl. But also, when you present the story of the little girl and the statistic, people give less. So that's really important evidence, and here is why. Apparently, within our brain, within our neurons inside the brain, we're more likely to be compassionate if we know who it's for, if we can look the person in the eye and know their personal story. Now, the interesting thing is that this moment in time, a lot of us are reading the news. Even before that, there's certain political situations going on. We have lots of opinions about other countries, about other people, about politicians, and maybe even people in our own community, in our own city. The nameless statistic that we're angry with, okay? And so, in essence, it's why would we, you know where I'm getting at, is we now need to walk a mile into somebody else's shoes rather than look at the number. But the thing is, why would you want to do that? Why would we want to be more compassionate? Well, compassion, if you exercise it like a muscle, not only does it come with a lot of positive emotions, which are good, it improves your relationship, the ability to have compassion. And yes, you can learn compassion. It actually slows the heart rate, so it's good for heart health. It's good for mental health. It reduces loneliness and depression and stress. In fact, they have done scientific research among medical students, and they gave them compassion training through loving kindness meditation, actually, but the compassion training. And they found that the students reported feeling less lonely and less stressed and more compassion in this process. And so compassion also releases oxytocin inside the body, and oxytocin is sort of like the love hormone. It comes from the vagus nerve, which is right below the skull and the heart, connects the head and the heart. Positive release inside the body. Also, there's links to increasing things like resilience as well. And so there's lots of positive benefits to compassion. Today's mindset hack is I'm going to first cover a little bit of NLP, which is about empathy. And empathy is different from compassion as well as altruism, but they're in the same family. So let me give you a little bit of definition here. Empathy is the ability to step into somebody else's shoes. In NLP, we call that the second perceptual position. Compassion is not just being able to step into somebody else's shoes, it's related to that, but A compassionist literally means sharing suffering. So you want to help that person. Whether you do or not, that's a whole other story. But altruism is when you do start helping the other person. So they're kind of all cousins in a way. In this exercise, rather than being angry at a statistic, I want you to dig around and find maybe a person that you somehow know who's part of the statistic, or maybe you can learn about that in YouTube or an interview in a newspaper that is about a specific person. And I want you to sort of float your mind into that person and imagine the story of their life. What was their childhood like? Their socio-economic background? Were they treated well by their parents? Education, the neighborhood, safety, healthcare, loved, received kindness and compassion? And sort of like go throughout their whole life. And just assume that they're also good people like you and I that just have led a different life. And they have a different map of the world. And they also may have different impacts that they've experienced in their life. The impact on them may be different. And there is such a thing as emotional intelligence, and there is such a thing as intelligence. Reality testing. Whole slew of emotional intelligence pieces comes in here. Self-actualization, interpersonal relationship, empathy, optimism, all those different things are learned behaviors, learned skills, learned strengths, right? The positive psychology intervention is very similar, although I think that the NLP way is like floating your mind into somebody else's shoes. You get to see what they see, hear what they hear, feel what they feel. I feel that's a little bit more complete at this point. But the positive psychologist hasn't really thought about coding the mind like that. It's a much younger science than NLP is already decades around and based on the study of the successful rather than doing tests and surveys among random people of a cross-section of society that you let do certain trials and surveys and things like that. For the positive psychology intervention that you do over here is basically finding out as much as you can about this person's story, this specific person's story. And they simplistically say, just sort of like imagine that you're them, or to learn as much that you can about this particular one person inside this statistic and see if you can sort of like spot their suffering so that you can share that a little bit. I'd like to leave you with that for today. Signing off. See you again tomorrow, 9 o'clock 9 o'clock Pacific, noon Miami, 6 p.m. Amsterdam, and midnight Bali. If you want to have the daily mindset hack in your inbox, go to forpositive.com, F-O-U-R, positive.com, forpositive.com. We'll send it to you every day, and also links where you can share this with your friends if you look at it at the private channel right now. See you around. Bye.